Welcome back to your live continuing coverage, the official coverage of Toy Fair 2015 with the Toy Industry Association on BeTerrific. I'm Michael Artsis. Thanks so much for joining us. We've got a chat room open, BeTerrific.com/live. Go to the bottom of the video player. You'll see an IRC chat. Join anonymously or create a login and come back often. We'll be checking that throughout the interview so that you can weigh in with your questions and we can ask them in real time. You can also hit us up on Twitter and Instagram at BeTerrificTV. And don't forget to go to our site, BeTerrific.com. You can take us on the go with our app, app.BeTerrific.com for iOS, Android, and of course also for Kindle. So take that with you. You can watch all our live and archive content. I am so honored to have this gentleman here. I'm so excited about this. I know the chat room is abuzz. Everybody, every one of our viewers has been begging us to get you on the entire Toy Fair, and thank you. I'm honored and humbled to have Todd McFarlane here. You are an unbelievable illustrator. You're a cartoon creator. You're a former owner of a hockey team, the Edmonton Oilers, which is my favorite fact about you, being a hockey fan. And of course, so much other stuff. You've also art-directed video games. I think very few people know that. And you were involved in 38 Studios, Kurt Schilling's venture into video games. Yep. And then in addition to that, of course, the amazing Spider-Man. Everybody knows you from that. But also, you have a whole slew of other ventures and stuff. But you own the Mark McGwire, Sammy Sosa, and Barry Bonds record-breaking home run balls.
Top three home run balls of all time.
Season.
Yeah.
And you don't have the one that Barry beat Hank Aaron.
No. I've always been less concerned about career marks.
Yeah.
Because somebody can extend their career. I always like season marks because it's the same amount of time for everybody, and if you don't break that record, everybody gets reset to 0 the next season, and you start it over and over and over. So it's not a longevity question. It's everybody plays by the same rules.
I agree with you. I was always amazed by Maris and what Maris could do. I never cared about Hank Aaron's record. I really didn't. I never cared how many home runs you could put up in a career. It was a year. Yeah. That was my thing. And maybe it was because I felt like, especially as a kid growing up, I could watch a year, not a career. You were born in 61, though.
61 when Maris hit his 61.
Yeah, so did that have anything to do with the fact that you wanted these balls so badly?
No, there's a couple big reasons. Number one is I've got two brothers, a year younger and older, and we were sports fanatic. And it's just kind of cool if you can phone up your brothers and say, neener, 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 look what I got, right? So that was number one. Number two was I had been trying, I've got a toy company, McFarlane Toys, and I've been trying to get into sports. And again, there's a couple truisms. Just stick to what you know. I only know a couple things, right? Comic books and art and sports, right? And after that, I got to start talking about the weather because I'm not very sort of broad in my thinking. So I tried to get into sports and I couldn't get there and some of the contracts were already tied up into toys. And the contracts came up about the time that the record was there, and my thought was if I buy this ball, and it came out to be more than I wanted to, but I got it, that then next time I'm hoping I ask them for a meeting, they'll say, wow, there's somebody who spent a lot of money on sports. He must be a sports fan, check. He must be successful because he's spending a lot of money, check. Let's give him a chance to come in here. And so I thought of it more as my ante at the poker game, that I had to push this money in so that I could get street cred. And then I ended up very quickly getting the MLB, NBA, NFL, and the NHL contract. And whatever I spent in those balls, I've made it back tenfold.
So it worked out.
Yeah, sure. Now, ball in, ball out, to the average guy sitting in Oklahoma, makes no sense. And they're absolutely right. If you look at it more from marketing, it worked.
You ever want to call up Gretzky and say, hey, I want that Honus Wagner card?
No. Look, here's what I'd want in the NHL. If I could have one item, the Stanley Cup.
Yeah.
Are you kidding me? I'm a Canadian guy, right? And so as a Canadian, we just love our hockey. It's in our DNA. If I could have the Stanley Cup and duct tape it to the top of my car and drive up and down the block, I'd be the mayor. What are you talking about? It would be cool. It would be cool.
Well, all I wanted growing up was the Stanley Cup as well, and I still only want the Stanley Cup. So how did you get into illustrating and getting into comic books? I mean, I know obviously you probably read them as a kid. That makes a lot of sense.
No, actually I didn't.
You didn't?
No, I didn't. I was the proverbial best artist in the class kid, right? I just came across something the other day that says, the best kindergarten award, and it was me, right? So it goes all the way back to kindergarten. But it was just doodling. It was, just scribbling in corners and doing something. There was no direction to it. But when I was 16, so it wasn't like I'd been buying them as a kid. At 16, I decided out of the blue, for no good reason, to go into a drugstore, buy 6 comic books, and I was enamored with them, like, right at that moment, and I went, I'm going to teach myself how to do this style, which is American superhero comics. And so I started creating characters and teaching myself how to do it, started collecting comic books, eventually went off to school, to college. While I was in college, where I was on a baseball scholarship, I played Pac-10 baseball, which is,
You're
I
a pretty good
sports.
athlete.
Yeah, oh, yeah. And
No-
well, at least baseball.
No juniors in hockey?
No, because I grew up in California, so it was sunshine sports. So I was going to school, and then in between my school work and my baseball, I was sending off these samples, sent out about 700 samples, got about 350 rejections back, and then finally, after 2.5 years, 3 years, they said, all right, we'll give you a job, and boom, I was in. I got my first 10 pages, and I then go, it's all on me. I have to prove I can draw decent and keep deadlines, and then my career just sort of slowly took off from there.
But it wasn't
Yeah.
this, I mean, we look at it now, everybody thinks you're Todd McFarlane, and they think of the huge success, but it was a slow crawl.
Yeah, because what you're doing is you're taking all those years and condensing them real quickly. So when I started, I was the schmuck doing the book that nobody wanted to do. They put me on another book. You have to prove you can do deadlines. The drawing level, the skill level wasn't very good. I mean, I just put out an art book, and to me, I think it's interesting if you look at the beginning of the book and the end, because that's all me, and it looks like 2 different human beings drew it. And all of it's from my professional days. Yeah. So eventually, I don't care what job they give you, if somebody pays you to do something for 10 hours a day, you're going to get more proficient at it. So as the years went by, I got a little bit better, and as I got better, then they'd offer you better characters. So then all of a sudden, instead of doing Banana Man and Broccoli Boy that nobody's heard of, they would then give you, how would you like to do the Hulk? And then how would you like to do a bit of Batman? And then how would you like to do Spider-Man? It was Spider-Man that sort of put me on the sort of on the way to sort of really exploding in a big way.
But when you're drawing like the Incredible Hulk, or when they give you that first, like, here's the real one, right?
Right, the one that my mom's heard. Right.
Were you like freaking out? Were you nervous? Were you like, I can't screw this up? There seems to me there's a great responsibility in drawing something that's been out there.
Not really, and maybe it's just my naivety. It depended too when you were coming onto the book. So if you were coming onto the book when the sales were slumping, then they didn't care, right? I mean, when we came on Spider-Man, it was true. Spider-Man wasn't even in the top 10, and they go, guys, to the writer and myself, do whatever you can do to help prop this book off. Knock yourself out. So they gave us a lot of freedom, which is way different than if you come on directly after a giant success. Because then at that point, they're going, keep status quo. Right. Keep status quo. So I had the luxury of being on both the Hulk and Spider-Man at times when they were floundering, and they just sort of said, do whatever you think will work. And I was fortunate enough that what entertained me on paper was also entertaining a lot of other people.
When did you get into the Amazing Spider-Man? Because I think that when I started reading Spider-Man, I thought that when I started reading it, I think that the drawing was too plain for me. And I think that in my mind, when you started, you gave a flair to it. The mask became much more like dynamic, and the costume too. It all became more dynamic.
Yeah, so here's what I did, and it's always interesting. I've made a career out of having a lot of dumb luck on my side. John Romita, to me, is the artist who drew the classic Spider-Man for an older generation. He was sort of the Norman Rockwell of Spider-Man. And because of that, everybody who followed him sort of did a John Romita knockoff. Now, I like Mr. Romita. He's brilliant, and he's a gentleman. But I go, if I just become another one of the herd and do a bad version of John Romita, I'm not going anyplace. So I went in there and I basically said, look, here's what I think's happening on Spider-Man, and nobody had updated it for 20 years. This is the thing. If you go into something and nobody does anything new in fashion for 20 years, and you do a little bit different, they call you a genius. So God bless them for being sort of status quo and sort of stale. But they were doing Spider-Man. Right. Emphasis on man, and I flipped it, and I go, I don't really care about, I want to do Spider-Man. And I put the emphasis on the spider. So to your point, I made the eyes bigger. Why? Because like a bug, right? I put them in these funky poses that completely ignored anatomy, right? You can't go into the poses I drew, but they look cool as heck. And then I go, hey, I'm going to put a little bit of dark on his costume, make him a little more sort of tough looking. And then the webs that for 30 years had been done a certain way, I go, you can't shoot it towards camera. The way that they drew it, it can't come towards camera because it just looks stupid. So I helped invent the look that, and the funny thing is, they fought me the whole time, especially on the webs. They fought me, and they sat there and they go, stop doing those webs, stop doing those webs. The editor-in-chief, who was an Italian guy, finally one day was so mad, he would, you will stop doing those spaghetti webbing. And I went, wow, I got a name for it now, cool. And actually, from that moment on, I made the spaghetti webbings twice as big, right? So word to the wise for all the children out there, if mom tells you to clean up your room and you don't, when she asks if you did, say yes, and then go see your friend. Because if you actually say you didn't, she's gonna stop you and make you go back. So I used to say yes to my bosses. I will stop making the eyes big. I will stop doing the spaghetti webbing. I will stop doing, and I didn't. And eventually the accountant came in one time and we were sitting there and I was getting finger pointed again. And I just go, I don't get it that you are in the business of putting out monthly comic books. I sell more comic books than anybody you employ right now. I don't understand why you're lecturing me. It seems like if you want to have a conversation, it should be everybody that's behind me, because I'm doing the best job. You don't have to like me. You don't have to like my style. We are in the commerce business. You sell books. I do it better than anybody else. Why are we having these conversations? But eventually, it's why I left, because I just was getting weary of these conversations.
But I love what you did, and you didn't.
So did a lot of other people. God bless you.
You know, but I just love that you just never gave up and you never bent. You knew you were right, and you said, you know what?
No. I was just stubborn and immature. That's way different than being right.
Now you're being humble. You knew you were onto something. You said you were selling more comics than anybody.
Right. The sales were there. So I'm not saying this is. Here's what ended up happening, I think, in hindsight, because I wasn't doing it status quo. They took it as I was saying what they were doing prior was wrong.
Right.
And I never said that. I was going, guys, there's just another way to get to the end result. Let's use a metaphor. 10 of us are now supposed to be at Jim's house for a party at 9. At 9 o'clock, we all get to the party. We accomplished our goal. Who cares what route we took with our car? There's 9 ways to get there. And as a matter of fact, not only should you not care how I got there, when I leave, you should not be holding down somebody else. So this fight that I just had, once I left, here's the crazy part, I became the status quo. They were going, you will never do it, you will never do it. Eventually they saw the results, and then the next kids that came in, they went, you're going to start drawing like Todd. I go, why? Because how do you know that the next kid might not do it twice as better as me?
Right.
I like, why are you trying to stop any of it? So now the webs you see and all these looks, I can say to some extent came from the stuff that I was doing.
But you really revitalized the brand. Has Stan Lee ever called you and said, or talked to you and said, hey, thank you? I mean, that's his baby.
No, nobody has to thank me. I was just doing my job. So
but I don't believe that the movies would exist without this.
No, because technology got good, but I was with Stan about a week ago having lunch with him. Stan and I are good friends.
He seems like a great guy.
And we don't talk about like how each of us did anything. We just sort of talk about stupid stuff, right? And a lot of times I'm his MC when he does panels and he sort of pokes fun. So I just like his company. Like I was just doing my job, and if it had any impact on the movies, God bless it. I don't think that's quite true. I think the technology was sort of more of a bigger one. Spider-Man had been sort of spread out to a couple different companies, and then there was this legal scrum, and it took 10 years for them to glue it back together. And by that time, then technology was able to give you a real Spider-Man movie. So it's arguably one of the few times that I thank the lawyers for delaying stuff, because it got us to a point where you could actually do some crazy things on the screen that wouldn't have been there a decade earlier.
Yeah, that's pretty lucky and pretty awesome, all at the same time. Well, you did some Batman stuff too, right?
Yeah.
Batman's my all-time favorite. Tell me about Batman.
When I got my first job. It was this obscure book at Marvel, and then within 3 months, they canceled it, and all of a sudden I was unemployed, right? The only difference at that point, I wasn't any better, was that I was able to put on my resume, I am now a professional. Because same cruddy work, wasn't very good, kind of ugly babies I was drawing, but I was able to do it. And I sent it back to all these 350 people that rejected me, and one of them was very kind, gave me a job. I ended up doing this book called Infinity Incorporated. I did 25 pages, stayed on the book for 3 years, held all my deadlines, but then I sort of got itchy feet and wanted to go and try some other stuff. But I told DC when I left, I will come back for one character, and that will be Batman. So again, dumb luck always has to sort of be part of the equation. I went over to Marvel, was doing the Hulk. I was getting fast. I could do 2 books. I was doing Hulk, started G.I. Joe, a real American hero, although I was a Canadian doing it in Canada. I thought it was odd. They did 1 issue. They fired me off it. The only time I've been fired because they said my style wasn't conducive to the writers, and that's a whole nother interview. But literally, I got fired from G.I. Joe for the first time I got truly fired. I hung up the phone. I looked at the clock. It was 12:06, and I sat back, and at 12:14, the phone rang. Todd, this is the editor of DC. How would you like to do Batman Year 2? Wow, I was unemployed for 7 minutes, right? It was cool, and I got to do Batman because to me, of all the characters, minus Spawn, I'm biased to him, my character, I think Batman's the coolest because I relate, of all the characters, I relate to the guy, and this may seem weird, not to Superman who goes, I can spin planets on my finger like a basketball and bullets bounce off me. It's the guy who sits there and he goes, I got $1 billion and I don't care. I am handsome, and the ladies want to get naked with me, and I don't care. I'm going to go home, and I'm going to wait, and I'm going to wait, and I'm going to wait, and at 3 o'clock, I'm going to put on a black costume, and I'm scared the crap out of the bad guys. I actually understand that guy.
But I do, too. I always say to people, that's why I love Batman. I relate to Batman. I could never imagine having spiderweb shoot out of my veins and being Spider-Man. I could never imagine being from another planet like Superman and being invisible or having X-ray vision or any of this stuff or being stronger than anybody. But Batman I could be. I always felt I could be Batman because if I could achieve enough or if I could get to a certain place, then yeah, I could have Alfred and the Batcave and the car and the suit. And I love that. And I love that you could then go fight crime. And I don't know why. I just could relate that it was a possibility. It was achievable.
Yeah. So Batman was my guy.
Yeah.
So, and there's a lot of that inspiration that then moves on into Spawn because the one thing that frustrated me about Batman was that he just wouldn't cross the line.
Yeah.
And the line of crossing was killing.
Right.
Right? And I go, well, so I want to be clear, and we're going to geek out here, right? With all the geek people here. So we're going to take these fictional characters and we're going to geek out here. Look here's how it works for Batman. Yeah. I've got you, Joker. I'm sending you to jail. Oh, you escaped and you killed somebody. I've got you, Joker. I'm sending you to jail. Oh, you escaped and you killed somebody. At some point, you have to say he's getting out or the system can't hold him. And here's a way to make him not kill anybody else. Kill him.
I'm with you.
Kill him. So
100%.
So if somebody was a pedophile and was killing the children in my neighborhood and he kept getting out and the system couldn't hold it, at some point me and the dads would have a plan for that, and he wouldn't do that anymore. And it would just mean you are not going to do this again, and he wouldn't cross the line. So Spawn is basically, to me, Batman with no corporation on him. He kills. You shoot at him, he will shoot you back, right? He's not afraid.
I love that. I love that passion. How did Spawn...
My wife doesn't like it quite as much, but I need to introduce you. Because she was my editor for 5 issues.
Was she?
And then she quit in issue 5.
Really?
And issue 5 is the pedophile issue.
Yeah.
Where Billy Kincaid, who lured these kids into an ice cream truck and then took them, and then the scene she quit on, I was drawing it, was he did his finger painting because he cut the fingers off and he was gluing them on the finger. And she goes, you're not putting that in this book. And I go, sure I am. And she goes, no, you're not, because I will quit. And I go, no, you won't, because I just fired you. Now, she will say she quit, but I fired her 5 minutes earlier. But she didn't want to do it. But at the end of that, his luring of them was, the old one that you hear, you scream, I scream, we all scream for ice cream, right? So that was it. He'd lure them in there, and he's got his bell. And at the end, he's hanging up in the cop's office, strung up, and he's got the sign on him, and it's stuck. He's stuck, and he's done. And it said, he made children scream, so I made him scream and scream and scream and scream. And I go, yes, I get that. So he took the pedophile out. I'm not going to lose any sleep over that.
I love that. Pedophiles are the most vile people in the world, and I really believe that we have to rid the world of these people, and sometimes it just
and rapists.
Yes, and it has to just happen.
And deadbeat dads.
Yes.
We make the list.
We'll make the list.
Yeah.
Like the guy in Happy Gilmore. Was it Happy Gilmore or Billy Madison? Billy Madison. Steve Buscemi's character.
Yeah.
But I'm serious. I totally relate to that, and I want an eye for an eye, and so I love that. How did Spawn come about?
I created him when I was 16. So again, going way back when I was falling in love with comic books for the first time. I bought a bunch of comic books. I'm like, wow, opened up my eyes to this medium that I was totally unaware of. I mean, I'd had them as kids, but I didn't really pay attention to them. And I'd go, hey, I'm gonna draw Captain America, Spider-Man, Batman, Superman, but I'm gonna create my own guys. So I had my my lasagna guy and my rutabaga man, but one of them was Spawn, and I put him in, and I go, I'm gonna do a Spawn comic book someday, and I sent it off, and people said, you're no good, and I go, screw it, I'm gonna do my own book. My dad was in the printing business. We started doing it. But the only difference between that book and what ended up coming out in 1992, the first issue, was that it was set in space, because that was like during Star Wars and everything was set in space. But the concept was still the same, and it goes something like this. First off, ladies and gentlemen, if you're going to write anything, write about yourself. It's the easiest thing to write. Okay, don't try and figure out anything else. So Spawn, for all intents and purposes, is me. That I believe, regardless of your religious belief, that if you were in love with somebody and you walked out the door and you were angry, and the last words you said to your loved one was, screw you, and you went out the door in anger and you got hit by a bus, that you would not want that to be the last thing you said to your, and then in the blink of an eye somebody says, you can say goodbye to them. We would take it.
Of course.
And if you didn't, you're a fool.
Absolutely.
And so he takes the deal and he goes, I want to say goodbye better than that. Boom. And but then the next thought was, who did I just make that deal with? And again, the big concept, you got heaven and hell, and he made the deal with the devil, whatever else. Comes back now. The trick was 5 years later, she's remarried. She has children. He couldn't give her children. She's remarried not to a bastard, but a really nice guy.
Yeah.
And he's going, ugh. If she was going to be married to anybody, it would be him other than me. And so now he's sort of tortured by, what do I do with this? The reason I came back, the love of my life, I don't want to disrupt her life, and then all this stuff comes down. We call it heaven and hell. I could simplify it and just call it like government and corporate America, whatever big things we don't like, people bossing us, our bosses pushing us around. And so his whole thing is just be, I guess like me, I just want to be my own man.
Yeah.
He, not only does he not like hell, he's not a big fan of heaven either. He's just going, I don't want either of you. I just want to be myself. And they're going, sorry, too late, game's too complicated, go. And that's sort of been the story.
Unbelievable. And so many people.
Well, that's the answer. Whether it's unbelievable, I'm sticking to that answer.
But it's unbelievable. I mean, it's just such a great story. You came up with Spawn at 16, basically.
Because I was severely in love with my wife.
At 16?
She was my girlfriend. We started.
You guys were dating?
Oh yeah, she was 13. I was 15 and a half, and now that'd be 37 years later. We're still going. Yeah.
Did you at
we
that
celebrate
age,
our 30th anniversary in a couple months.
Congratulations.
7 years of dating and 30 years of marriage. Yep.
Congratulations.
Sure, we love her.
And
it's not a coincidence that the person that the character called Spawn is in love with in the comic book is named Wanda. My wife's named Wanda too, right? Oh, it worked pretty well. So.
You've had such an amazing success in your career. Did you ever think that you'd have such success, be able to buy part of the Edmonton Oilers, do the things that you do, work with Kurt Schilling in 38 Studios, and take a chance on that, art direct video games, have a toy line, McFarlane Toys? Did you ever think when you were starting out, when you were 16, when you were 15 and a half, and you're...
The answer is yes. I used to mentally masturbate going, you know what? I am going to be awesome. Of course not. Look, here's what happens to people who have success. Here's what happens to people who have success. We just live our lives.
Right.
We do what we want to do. We're thankful that any of what we want to do personally somehow has an appeal to a wider audience. And that wider audience then begets us some fame, fortune, notoriety, and it allows us then to continue to do these things that we like. So having success allows me to just keep doing art. I'm an artist at the core. That's all I am, as an artist. So did I think that some stuff would work? No. I mean, I never think of failure. So that one is a no-no. But there's nothing that you ever do that you can predict the future, and especially as I get older, it's even less hard to predict the future. So you just go, back then at 16, I hope someday I can break into comic books. That was it, that was the goal. And then once I got in, I go, I hope I can get a regular book. And then I go, I hope I can do a character my mom's heard of. And each one is just an incremental step. And then eventually, you've gone kind of a far ways, but nowhere in that whole task do we, the individuals, the celebrities, turn around and go, my God, look how far I've come, aren't I awesome? I think I'm pretty good. Todd, you're kind of sassy. You don't do it, you just live your life, right? Did you think you were going to be sitting here with that nice orange kerchief and that thing looking as sharp as you were? No, when you were 15? No, you're just going, I just did my thing and now you're here. God bless you.
Yeah, well, thank you.
Yes.
And no, you're 100% right. I think that's a good point. I got 2 quick questions for you. I know we got to go.
Let's go.
Digital Phil is in the chat room, and he wants to know who you think is the best illustrator for comic books today.
Oh, easy. This is easy one. Greg Capullo.
Okay.
Greg Capullo did some work for Marvel. I had the good fortune of having him on Spawn for a long time, from about issue 20 to issue 100. He took some time off, had some health issues, but he's back doing Batman and with Scott Snyder at DC Comic Books, and it's the top-selling book in the nation right now. And what makes Greg great, and this is the hard part of drawing, and I couldn't even do it. He can move the camera around effortlessly. There's only been a handful of people that can move it as easy as him. He can draw something and go, I can shoot it at any angle, and it's believable.
It's very tough. I can't draw anything, by the way. Nothing. So I'm impressed by everything you guys do.
You can still lead a productive life, don't worry.
Thank you. What's next for you? You got so much going on. You've got the.
So let's talk about it real quick. 250 just came out. I've got a new team going out. I've got a new book coming out called Savior, right? That's a new concept that's sort of a modern take on comic books, because I'm the president of Image Comics, third largest company, Marvel, DC, and then us. We sold more trade paperbacks than Marvel last year, and they got a couple of big names. We're the company that for 12 years done Walking Dead. My partner created The Walking Dead. So I've got some ins on it. We've got the toys that we're doing. I've moved into the building block aisle. I did 20 years in the action figure aisle. We're in the building block aisle. I'm going to take them on and do exactly what I did for 20 years in the action figure aisle over there. And then my wife finally, I love my wife, but sometimes I frustrate her. She took me by the ear and she came to me the other day and she goes, I just rented you a room, and it has no phone and no internet and it has no windows. It is 10 by 10 and I've got the only key. And you keep saying you're going to finish that damn Spawn movie reboot. You're going to get it done because I'm not letting you out. So
wow.
And she knows I'm a tightwad and she's paid rent, so I'm going to do it. So for the last couple of weeks I've been finishing it because I've got an Academy Award-winning actor waiting. The money's waiting. Everybody's waiting. The deal is I write, produce, direct. They're going, great, where's the script? And so I got to finish the script. It'll be done by San Diego. We'll push it, and then once it gets going and we get a serviceable script, because I might have to rewrite it, we're off to the races, and I'll go and direct the movie, and then we'll rock and roll.
Who's going to act in it?
I can't tell you, because that would be giving you an exclusive.
I know. That's what I thought we had right here.
Somebody cool.
Oh, I like him.
Yeah. And we've got another big brand coming out, too, for our building blocks that we're going to announce at San Diego, another big one. So we got, I feel young again. I feel like I'm back 20 years, and I got all this cool stuff, deja vu all over again. I'm feeling good. There's some lulls in life, and I've got 3 healthy kids and do a lot of baseball coaching, and life's good.
That must be a lot of fun, coaching the kids.
And I got good kids. We've had nationally ranked teams 3 years in a row, right? They're called, this might come as a surprise, Club Spawn. Right? Stick to what you know.
There you go. What was your favorite toy growing up? This is Toy Fair. Last question, yes. I promise. What was your favorite toy growing up?
Probably the original Hot Wheels, right? We were living up in Canada. We happened to make a trip down to California just when the Hot Wheels came out, the red lines, and we bought some of it, and we bought some of the track, and we went up, and it hadn't come out in Canada yet, and we were like gods. Me and my brothers, and we had the Hot Wheels, and we collected everything, and I still have a bunch of the original cars when I was a kid.
That's awesome. I am so excited about all this, and the Hot Wheels. I love the Hot Wheels. I wanted the Hot Wheels so bad. Thank you so much,
Sure,
Todd
appreciate it.
McFarlane.
All
Thank
right,
you for coming on.
appreciate the
And
time.
I could talk hockey with you all day too.
Okay, let's do it tomorrow.
Excellent.
Yeah.
I'm Michael Artsis. We'll be back with some more from Toy Fair 2015. That's the great Todd McFarlane. Can't thank him enough for doing this. It was unbelievable. This is BeTerrific, and we'll be back with more from Toy Fair 2015. Your official Toy Fair 2015 coverage on BeTerrific right after this. Thanks for watching.